Don't
to
be
bring in
disrespectful
tonight's
to your
all-star
congressman.
panel, Democratic strategist Bernard Whitman, Guardian Angels founder Curtis Lewa, and the host of National Review's Off the Page, Will Kane. Curtis, I'm going to go to you first, my friend. Try to ask a guy a question. Look, I don't even know what the blog's going to say about this tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. The guy wouldn't answer my question. I wanted to know if he thought, I was really getting at, was he too far left? Was he too dramatic? Was he too looking for that OMG moment and it backfired on him?
Well, Congressman Grayson was a sore winner when he was in office and has proven he's a sore loser. This guy just doesn't get it. The way he was pushing the issues, his constituents rejected him. They pimp-slapped him down, and he's trying to do a little bit of mathematical technology. Well, you know, everyone else was 10%, I was only 4%. Why can't people just acknowledge those who have lost? The reason they lost was Barack Obama health care. No other reason. Because they defended it, they dotted the I's, they crossed the T's, and they fell on the sword. He should impale himself on the Barack Obama health care bill.
Curtis, come on. The reason why the guy lost is he won in a marginal district. It's a Republican conservative district. Has nothing to do with health care. Has everything to do with the economy. The failure in the Democrats in 2010 was a failure of communication. We did not properly set expectations. I fault the president for not setting expectations, measuring the results, communicating his successes.
You had the great communicator, Barack Obama, the machine.
Barack Obama was a great campaigner-in-chief. He was not a great communicator.
That's the key fault. You suggested more than one answer. It wasn't just about communications, because you also said it was also about the economy. You could also say it's about low voter turnout among young people.
Communicating about
the point
what
is,
we were doing.
You guys have shoved out a ton of reasons about why you lost this election, but the one you're unable or unwilling to consider is that it was about your ideas.
Well, let me throw this out here to the panel. Hold on, Bernard. Let me throw it out here. I asked Congressman Grayson this, and he didn't want to get to it. Some of the policies that the left was pushing. Health care, Curtis, that's all he wanted to talk about. Health care probably lost a good portion of the 60 whatever seats they lost, and some of the Senate seats.
It's fundamentally not true. 3.5 times as many voters that went to the polls voted on the economy, not on health care. When you ask the voters who actually voted in this election where they stand on health care, should it be repealed or improved or stay the same, voters are evenly split. Health care did not spell the death knell for the Democrats in this election. What spelled the death knell for the Democrats in the election was a failure to properly frame expectations on the economy.
What does that mean? What is that? I don't understand. What properly framed?
It means the administration should have never gone before Congress and said, pass the stimulus, unemployment will never go above 8%. They should have told the truth. They said, if we don't get the stimulus in, unemployment will shoot above 12%. We did not properly manage the expectations game, and therefore
go ahead, Will. I don't know how you properly manage 14.6 million people out of work and you know, home prices through the floor and food prices going up. There's no managing that. That's reality.
Congressman Grayson said there was nothing he could have done to win that election, that it was written in the cards the minute he put his name on the ballot. Let me ask you this. If he had opposed the health care bill, do you think there's a chance he would have been elected?
No.
How about if he opposed stimulus?
No.
How about if he had ran as a Republican and had conservative values?
Well, now you're saying, okay, if he had changed, if he was from a different party.
You're right. I'm suggesting, what if he had different ideas?
That district is a fundamentally Republican district. I think it would have been incredibly hard for even a conservative Democrat to have held that seat.
How do you win it in 08? How do you win it in 08?
Election.
How in the world did they win it in 08?
It was called a tidal wave that was headed by the president.
Kind of like the tidal wave that was
got drowned by the red tsunami this time, right? Tidal wave swept them in, tsunami swept them out.
And it was all because of the independents. And the biggest problem in this election is the political center is now dead. Most Americans are actually centrists, they're moderates, they're independents. What's happened? You've got a Congress that's more liberal than the Democrats are more liberal, and the Republicans are more conservative.
Let's talk a little bit about what Congressman Chaffetz said. He said we need to start cutting spending. He was more than willing, Curtis, to hold off on any sort of pork and earmarks. Good idea.
All right, that's going to take time. But you know the real problem is Bernanke, while all this is going on, stacking paper. That's why all these prices are going up. We have enough corn. We have enough oil. We certainly have enough gold. The only reason it's going up and being inflated is we're devaluing the dollar because Bernanke is being given a license to print money and spread it out there at unprecedented levels. And you know, stacking paper is what's going to take us on a one-way trip to Palookaville.
But here's the issue. $3.8 trillion 2011 budget. That is insane, especially when we're taking in about $2.5 trillion in taxes.
But the last time I checked, interest on the federal debt was near record lows. I'm not suggesting I want to go out and spend, spend.
Well,
but interest on that debt is near
Don't say that.
lows.
It's incorrect. Interest, total interest, is at record highs. The rate may be at record lows. the total number of interest dollars we're paying to support the federal debt is at record highs.
You know what we need to do? We need to do three things to get this economy moving again. We need responsible tax policy, which is putting money back into the pockets of 97% of Americans so they can go out and spend it. Two, we need to stimulate the private sector through aid to small business. And three, we need to put those construction workers, 1.5 million construction workers sitting idle, we need to put them back to work.
You know, Whitman,
put money into the economy.
When you were talking,
when
about the interest rates, it's like the guy was paying his VIG to organized crime saying, hey, not too bad, the VIG. It's 18% instead of 36%. You're not going to bend my leg and stuff it in my pocket. Are you out of your mind? You actually saw that as being a positive thing.
The fact that the interest rate on the debt is low, yes, I do.
No, the rate is low, Bernard, but the actual number is approaching $500 billion, the interest alone on that debt.
Yeah. How do we get this economy back on track? Legislatively, you only do two things. You set the rules of the game, and you get the hell out of the way. You stop spending. You let the consumer and the investor know what it takes to make money.
Is this traffic jam or log jam in Washington now, with the House being Republican and the Senate being Democrat and the White House being Democrat? Is that enough to do that? It's
a double-edged sword, Eric. On the spending side, it's good because they can't get any more spending bills shoved through Congress. On the tax side, they're going to have to set the rules of that game fairly quickly.
You know what? It's time we stand up for Main Street. It's time we stand up for Main Street and not Wall Street.
Hold on, Mayor. Hang in there. Go ahead, Curtis. Am I wrong here? Does Main Street in favor of giving the UAW $8 billion of our money?
No, just like we didn't want to bail out the banks, didn't want to bail out the financial institutions, don't want to necessarily subsidize the union. And notice in that poll, union members are saying, maybe it's time we become free agents. Maybe it's time we open ourselves up to Republicans, Democrats, and independents and let them come to us and convince us that they're the right people to vote for instead of always being in the back pocket.
Hold on, Mayor. Mayor, hang in there, sir. I know you want to get in here. Go ahead, Bernard.
Well, you talk about the demise of the unions. The truth of the matter is Harry Reid, Manchin, Patty Murray, Bennett in Colorado. The reason why they got reelected is because of the unions. The Democrats held control of the Senate, I think, in large part because
that's great for them, Bernard. That's great for them. Well, no, but that's great for them. How good is that good for the American people, though? Where
the complexion of the new Black Panther Party members who were standing out there was their protection because the Justice Department didn't want to touch this, not in the Barack Obama administration.
Go ahead, Bernard. Jump
in. Where does the Justice Department?
So one second. Let me just bring the panel in. I'll get back to you. I promise.
Obviously, the guy shouldn't have been carrying a nightstick, but there is no evidence whatsoever that this is anything more than an isolated incident. It was a mistake. It was stupid, but to somehow suggest this is part of a pattern of voter intimidation.
I'm not suggesting this. This is not even what I'm talking about, Bernard. I'm asking about why the DOJ dropped the case.
Because likely there was not enough evidence to pursue it. It was one guy, one incident. They investigated it. There was no pattern. There was no reason to continue this. But the Republicans can't let go of overblowing things, pulling it out, and the voters did not elect them to focus
Let's talk about what the issue is here, Will. I'm concerned about the DOJ, not about what happened at the polls. Bernard, it's not only Democrats that are doing it. Just happens to be 3 Democrats in Bell, California. It's across the party lines. It doesn't matter, independent, Republican. It doesn't matter. Should we be posting everyone's salary?
Yes, it's outrageous. It's disgusting. And it's inexcusable. And I think one way to get around it is more transparency in government. We ought to put all of that online. Now, of course, there are costs involved in getting the system set up, but I think that those costs would be repaid because people would not be allowed to do this. I think those officials should be sued in civil court. They should be forced to pay back all the money plus penalties. I would absolutely support putting these salaries online. We need to expose fraud and waste. And by the way, we ought to have a system in every municipality like we have here in New York, 311. Call up 311. You can report anything, whether it's a barking dog or someone with their hand in the till.
Go ahead, Will.
I think the important lesson from this, Eric, is the philosophical one. It's what TJ started to talk about, and that is the voters should just simply be more skeptical about governments and their efficiency and responsibility in spending your money. Every single level of government you should look at with a huge amount of skepticism.
Eric, they elected Moonbeam Jerry Brown. He's been there since the 70s. He knows where all the bones were buried. He was the Attorney General, the failed mayor of Oakland, the failed governor of California. So what are the schlubs in California do? They return him to office.
Well, look at the option of Meg Whitman. Are you kidding me?
Hold
on. Let me just stay with Curtis for 1 second. Right here in New York, we had a guy, Carl Palladino, who said he was going to bring a baseball bat to Albany and break some bones or whatever he said, throw people out windows. But we didn't. We turned away from that in New York.
Yeah, but you see, he should have made those kneecaps sing and ring, because we have a Sheldon Silver here, who is the controller of the state legislature, who has outside income, who will not allow that to be publicized. We need the transparency, but how did the Californians, boy, they must have been really smoking that Maui Wowie there, that legal marijuana, because how could they return the very people who knew where all the bones were buried and did nothing about it?
All I'm saying is, here's a guy who promised to close some corruption gaps.
He's an anti-gay bigot who had no business even getting the nomination, let alone running for governor.
He's rough around the edges, a conservative guy. Look, I just left California.
No,
I was
he's
there for 12
insane.
Hold on a second. I was in California for 12 years. And I tell you right now, I feel bad, but my sympathy is really running low, because those people got what they got coming to them. It's one of the most apathetic electorates in the country. Regularly, less than 40% of people show up to vote for anything. And like you just said, they just put boom,
and
boom,
they
beam
gave
back.
us Governor Reagan. They gave us Governor Nixon. They've given us
Past
Governor
tense.
Schwarzenegger.
Long time. Governor Schwarzenegger was a rhino. He was an empty
That's
six.
not mine.
Term limits, how's that? Across the board.
I voted for term limits here in New York City, but I do think we ought to be able to educate the voters to throw the bums out when necessary. I don't think we should have a seatbelt in effect. I think we ought to be able to exercise our right to steer the car.
It's about the spotlight we have to look at. Yes, term limits, but again, we have to get angry. We have to get really. This is stuff that affects our own backyard.
That's what they did for Domino's.
Go ahead, Bernard.
Look, I'm all for promoting businesses, but this is outrageous. We have an obesity epidemic in this country. We ought to get the USDA in line. We ought to be promoting. Why can't we promote milk? I mean, I don't want to milk the program more, but at least milk would be better than pushing cheese.
Well, they are. It's part of the budget.
Same group, right?
It's all part of the budget, exactly. And that drinking milk will make you lose weight. That was a big fallacy.
2%.
Oh, I'm all
guys.
skip.
Well, what about it?
Come on, Bernard. We should be pushing some product over another. This is a complete repudiation of the idea that when people hurt, government should move. Look, people are too heavy. We need to help them, lose weight and help them understand what they should and shouldn't eat. Oh, by the way, let's help out the dairy farmers. They need some help, too. You help one group, you hurt the other.
But this is good old-fashioned retail. You go to a fine Italian restaurant, 5-star top shelf, and they don't let you have Parmesan cheese, right? You say, oh, cheapskates. They throw nickels around like manhole covers. When they leave the Parmesan cheese there, what do you, the consumer, do? You douse your rigatoni.
Well, Curtis is right, actually.
Cheese. We love cheese.
We do love cheese.
They'll be the cheese sandwiches.
Do you eat the average American eats at least 33 pounds a year, so clearly you're covering your quota, Curtis. Actually, cheese is quite habit-forming. It has tryptophan and serotonin, so it makes you feel so good and relaxed. And you're right. The Department of Agriculture, which few people know, founded by Abraham Lincoln, wasn't intended to help us and warn us about obesity and other problems. It was when 90% of us were farmers, and it was put in place to promote business. And people don't realize that.
No, but of course it is. But look, I absolutely believe in promoting American businesses abroad, but why we should be pushing cheese to Americans makes no sense. And to downplay this notion that somehow we're sort of helping people make healthy choices. Obesity costs $73 billion in this country.
That's just for businesses. That's just for businesses.
It is outrageous.
It's corporate welfare.
Mimi Roth. We're going to say
welfare.
thank you to Bernard Whitman, Curtis Sliwa, and Will Kane. Appreciate you guys. You guys are fantastic.